recording. All right, bingo. All right, so today's topic for the call is going to be on objections. So first things first, what is an objection? Or what is objection handling, either one? So objection handling, all that it means is just problem solving. So there's three real objections that every objection actually boils down to. So no matter what they're saying, it boils down to these three root things. So one, it's going to be too much money. Two, it's going to be not the right package. And then three is going to be general comfort. So one, too much money. Two, not the right package. And then three, general comfort. And in parentheses next to number two, you can put this. I learned this from a car salesman. There is no such thing as the right price for the wrong package. There's no such thing as the right price for the wrong package. Right? So these are the roots of each objection, and it is important to be clear through any smokescreen objections to find out what these three root or which one of these three it is. So objection cycle. So how that works, I'm sure you've all learned this to some degree, but there's 4 steps to the objection cycle. One is going to be to clarify. 2 is going to be to empathize. 3 is going to be to offer solutions. And then 4 is going to be to ask again. So again, clarify, number 1, 2, empathize, 3, offer solutions, 4, ask again. So how that would look, so when you clarify, so say the objection is, it's too much money, right? So clarify would be like, okay, I just want to make sure I'm hearing you right. So this set is just more than you want to spend, or this is more, too much money for your budget, or, some of that nature, right? You say that, right? Empathize would be, oh, no worries, I totally understand. And then offering the solution, hey, let me show you what most people who want to get this set, but it's just a little bit too much money do. You show them that next option, and then you would ask again, right? So for example, say you're, say you're pitching an ultimate or a signature set, right? And they're like, oh, this is too much money. Yeah, no worries, I totally understand. And it's just like, like based on what they say, that you can't get the price point on this set to where it needs to be. That's when Max, that's when you drop down to like a custom set, right? So like you drop down to the homemaker, right? Yeah, let me show you what most people do who want this set, but can't swing it, but they want like the best pieces out of here. So you drop down to the homemaker, you customize in like a couple of pieces, from the signature ultimate set that they wanted. Don't go crazy, but a few things, make sure it obviously fits in the block, right? You customize it to that, and then you're like, and then here's something special, just to build it up. What I'll do, we'll customize this set for you, put this and this in there, and then what I'll do is I'll actually match the price for you. So normally when you customize, so this is how I frame it. So normally when you customize something, the price is going to go way up because if you break apart the set, I'll even show them like this is what the set costs, right? So we're actually taking out, and I'll even say like we're taking out like this $50 fork, we're putting in this $125 pair of shears in there, but I'll actually cover the difference so you get exactly what you want. And then that really kind of drives home like what you're doing, right? So that's like the solution part. And then once you do that, and then it's just like, asking again. So it's like, you could be like, and you said you like dark handles, or does this fit the budget a little bit better? Could you see yourself using all these pieces? Any kind of question like that is what you'd ask next.
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
Or you can keep going if you want. I could save it.
Yeah, just write it down. I'll swing back for you. Um, so 3 keys, by the way, with objection handling. So when I say empathize, there's a difference between empathizing and sympathizing. So empathizing means like you want to acknowledge their concern and show that you truly understand, but don't allow yourself to be sold on whatever the objection is. That's like sympathizing essentially. So again, acknowledge their concern, show how much you truly understand what they're saying, but then don't allow yourself to be sold on whatever the objection is, right? So for instance, like, if they say, you know, whatever they say is going on, it's like, okay, I definitely hear you, right? You definitely want to, that's why you always want to agree first with them. Yeah, I totally understand, you know, get on their side. Don't be combative instantly. This is like a problem that I see a lot of reps do when they're like objection handling. They'll go like their first instinct is like, you know, right to trying to handle it, but no, it's like you have to agree first because like if you basically jump down their throats and like no you can afford it or or whatever it is, it's like you just lost them, you know what I mean? So that's why like I don't should grab one, but the deal bind or the deal sheets or the excuse me the feedback forms, right? So when someone's like yeah they're like no Matt, this seems great, but we want to walk around and think about it. Yeah, okay, no worries. Totally understand. Here, let me do this. Let me write it down for you. That way you have it when you're walking around. So when I say that, then I'm like, I get what they're saying. I'm like, I'm on their side. I'm just gonna give them a paper so they can walk around. It's what they're thinking. So, oh, okay, he's cool. Versus like if I just immediately go like, hey, why don't we just show or like, go right into like trying to handling them or like what if I give you a better deal or whatever. It's like, there's not enough space in between there, right? So that's why you gotta, slow it down essentially. So then, you go into filling out the feedback form. Basically on there, I mean, I'll grab one in a minute, but basically what it says, what you want to write down is like the name of whoever it is, right? What they're looking at, the price, obviously. So I do normal. So I do an N. So that's like the normal price, but also subconsciously, N is like what there's the price they're saying no to. Y is your price is also means like Y for yes. It's like a little thing. So N is like so say it's like the retail price. Y is the set price, and then I do another Y under that with the 5 pay, and I'll put like times 5, and I'll circle that one. And then you'll put like ask them like the color, like for the block and for the handles, and then I'll always ask a rapport question too, just to kind of like bring it in. So I'll be like, okay, yeah. So I'll run through real quick. So okay, yeah, no worries. Let me write it down for you. And then if you're gonna do it, definitely be the family set. Okay, cool. And then did you like the dark or the white handles again? White handles. Okay, gotcha. And then do you like the lighter wood or the darker wood? The cherry. Yeah, that the white and the cherry really looks cool. Um, how's the event treating you, by the way? Okay. Y'all come here every year? All right. Anything you recommend I check out on a break? Okay, yeah, the corn dogs. All right. Those are good. Sweet. Hey, just curious, since I got you here, just so I know on a scale of 1 to 10, one's like Matt, it's never gonna happen. 10's like let's do it. With the set here, where would you say you're sitting? And then they'll respond, right? So if it's like a 5 or below, that usually means that you're either like on the wrong package with them or they weren't serious at all. 6 or better, probably on the right package, especially if it's like 7, 8, or 9 or whatever. So 6 or better though, you're probably in the right spot. you just have to do something, you got to give a little something extra special. But if they're like a 5 or under, I would be like, my response is like, okay, well, do you feel like you'd use everything in this set, or is this just way out of the budget or something like that? And then they'll say whatever. But if it's like I said, 6 or above, then I'm like, okay. So you're like a 7 out of 10. Cool. Well, hey, let me ask you, since I got you here, since it sounds like you're like right there on the fence, if I could do something a little extra special, like out of my pocket, out of my commission, just for you to go, or for just for you to go ahead and say, swipe the card, let's do it. Would you maybe be open to that? Say they'll usually be like maybe, or well, what you got. If they say yeah, then it's like you got it. But usually be like, well, maybe what you got, something like that. And then my response is, well, I could do one of two things. So Cutco does set all the pricing, Mrs. Jones. Just the only so Cutco does set all the pricing. So as far as that goes, any like extra deal or discount comes directly out of my pocket. But I'm willing to do that to earn your business. So there's not a ton I could do, but I can take a little bit out of my commission for you. Or I could go ahead and get you a couple of extra bells and whistles on top of the set, so like a couple extra free things. So which one would you prefer, right? And then usually if they say free stuff, I'll just, I don't do the whole both thing. But if they say, a discount, then I'm like, hey, can I give you a little tip? And they're like, what's that? And I'll lean in. I'm like, come here. And it's like, so if a salesman ever, and this is the Fonz close. I didn't make this up, but just to give credit where credit's due. So if a salesperson ever asks you if you want a lower price or free stuff, the correct answer is always both. And I'll like spin around. I'm like, so let me rewind the tapes here. So did you want the lower price or the free stuff? And they're like, both. I'm like, all right, we got a quick learner in there. And that gets them like, they're really into it at that point. They're really like, they're feeling it. And then so I'm like, all right. So depending on the set, I'm like either pick 1 to 2 gadgets. So if you had some of these gadgets here, and I'll hold them up. And this is something I learned from Jason. You want to hold up the gadgets because it makes them pick faster. And then don't explain every single gadget. Just explain the ones, whichever ones that they pick. So you hold them up. If you were to get 2 of these, which 2 would you use the most? Peeler and the pizza cutter. Okay, great. And then I'll go into 30 seconds. So yeah, peeler is great, double bladed, peels in both directions. Tip, you can take your eyes potatoes out. This blade even comes off cleaning. And then the pizza cutter, super strong. So strong enough to go through like deep dish, but it's just strong and not sharp, so you never cut yourself on it. And then the best thing is that, so little kids can use them for pancakes, waffles, quesadillas, stuff like that. The best thing is we know that pizza cutters are always a pain to clean, so we made it where this just comes off for easy cleaning. I'll show them that. Oh, so yeah, these two are like an additional like 50, 60 bucks each that I'm going to personally buy for you. So that's like 110 bucks on top of the set here. And then what I can do for you price wise is, like I said, it's normally going to be this, but then basically I'll charge myself whatever it is. Boom. So it'd only be this, and that split up would only be that over the 5 months. And then again, what you'd be getting and just go into what they're getting. So you're getting, the family set. So you get all the 10 basic pieces, plus you get our foremost customer requested pieces, the nonstick cheese knife, a hearty slicer for ribs, sausage, salami, that kind of stuff, sweet potatoes, the mini chopper. You get the shears, you get 10 of the steak knives, you get the block, you got, all 3 of the cutting boards, you get me, you get these 2 extra gadgets. Plus, you actually get a set of knives that you're going to use every single day for the next 20, 30, 40 years. If anything ever happens to, we'll fix or replace them. Never going to have to worry about sharpening that because that's going to be our job for you. And then like you just build up all that value. And I'll even like like the free stuff, like I'll stack like on the sheet, I'll like stack all that stuff up, so it's like you're just stacking up the value higher and higher. So once I do, then I'll once you drop the price, I'll like give space. I think Max, you probably saw me do this where I like, took a step back or took a sip of water or looked under, went under the table for something. So that gives them like that room to like kind of talk about it or whatever. I'm in a spot where I can still hear it, but I'm just not visibly in front of them, and that's always enough. And then they'll say whatever they say, and then there you go. So that's kind of how that part works. So yeah, and then the next key that I was gonna give. So number one, like I said, was empathize and sympathize, and then two is going to be build that strong connection quickly with whoever cooks or makes the buying decisions. So what that means, so when you're there, I mean, you can just ask, oh, do you do most of the cooking, or y'all kind of split it 50-50 or what, you know what I'm saying? And I'll ask that, like, you could ask that like when you like cut the leather, right? So that way you just kind of know. But I think it's also important to, no matter who it is, you still want to engage both of them, right? Because she might do the cooking, but he makes the decisions, or vice versa, right? So you kind of you still want to engage both. And then three, it's just to expect objections every time so that you can handle them with confidence, because they're going to come up. We know they're going to come up, right? I mean, if you don't get one, God bless, but you know they're coming, so just be ready for them. So yeah, that's pretty much the outline there. Max, I know you had a question.
Yeah, so would you ever, when you say like you get an objection, and say it's either one of those three, like too much money, not right package, or general comfort, would you ever go into like, say it's like too much money, would you ever go into building value instead of like dropping down immediately? Or what, would you ever do that?
If they so so what you're saying, I just want to make sure I'm hearing you right. So it's like, if they say it's too much money, would I like build value in that set again? Or what do you mean?
Yeah, like, would you say something like, hey, yeah, would you mind if I tell you why it's so much money? Or would you go into something like building value on the product, on the price? Or would you just go into like drop down, hey, yeah, I get it, too much money. Let me show you some cheaper options.
Well, that kind of, so I mean, if they say it's too much money before you like actually pitch something, then I might be like, well, do you want to know why?
Mm-hmm.
But if I've already done the pitch, then they know why. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at that point, I would basically, so if they say it's too much money, an easy question that you could ask is like, is it, um,
Is it too much for Cutco or too much for your budget?
I mean, yeah, something like, is it, is this more than you'd want? Is this just more than you want to spend on knives, or is this more than you can, you ask something like that. But honestly, at that point, if they say it's too much money for that set, you know, well, one thing you could ask to know if this like the right thing is, you could say, well, would you use everything in there? Because like they could be able to afford it, but there could be like, oh, I don't want to, I don't want it if it, I'm paying, I don't want to pay for blah blah blah, right?
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's the money or the pieces, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you could ask that, but I would probably, yeah, I mean, you could also ask like, is it a little bit too much, or is this like way out of the budget, or is this like pushing the envelope, right? Because if it's a little bit, you know, a little bit could be like 100, but if it's $100, you give them a deal, take $100 off, and close it, close the set there. But I mean, if it's a lot, then you're probably on the wrong, package with them.
Yeah.
So then you drop down a smaller set, or if if it's like a homemaker, you can drop down like a galley, or or if you can tell that like the galley isn't going to be enough difference, you can go right to the 5-piece, right? So did that
Yeah. So
answer that?
if they say like, oh, the Ultimate is way too expensive, then would you just ever go to just like the Homemaker?
Yeah, you do it.
Okay.
Because like a homemaker is like half the price of an ultimate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is too expensive. Yeah, no worries. I know most people don't wake up and say, let's drop $3 grand on knives, but let me show you what most people are doing who they want Cutco, but they just can't swing, the big set right now. Is we'll actually get this set. This is the basic set. These pieces, like I said, come in every set no matter what. So, you know, it's kind of like the if it ain't broke, don't fix it set. Kind of highlight those real quick. Oh, and then what I do too, so you don't get the objection of, well, if I was just going to do it, I would just do the whole thing, which is BS. So what I love to say is, you know what, and what's great is Cutco actually doesn't penalize you from starting small. We actually have what's called our upgrade program, and I'll show them that brochure. So it's literally designed for people who get this set who eventually plan on getting the rest of them. Basically, when you're ready, you don't have to buy a whole new set. We just get you the ones that you're missing, the bigger block, and a few more table or steak knives. And what's great is you only pay the difference. And we even have like a block trade-in program too. And like you just build that up and it's like, oh, okay, sweet. And if people are still like set on getting the bigger set, they weren't going to buy it anyway. They're just 9 times out of 10, they're just BSing you, right? So
Yeah.
Say that again. So if they still want the bigger set and they're not hearing that from you, then they're just BSing you.
most of the time,
Okay.
9 times, like that's like a smoke screen for like they can't afford it. They when usually when people say that they can't afford it, but their pride won't let them say they can't afford it. Because it's like you could even another analogy, like you could say this to him, but this is just so you know, it's like that's like saying like, you know, what's your dream car? Ferrari? Okay. That's like saying I'm not gonna drive anything until I have 200 grand to buy a Ferrari. Hell no, you're gonna drive a Toyota or whatever until then, right? So same idea.
Yeah.
But that's like
No,
saying
that
I'm
makes
not
sense,
gonna.
Matt. Thank you.
Yep.
Hey man, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any tips or tricks to know what package to drop down from? So I always like pitch the ultimate first, but other than like trying to read people while I'm talking to them, I don't really know if I should drop down to a signature, homemaker, or like all the way down to a gap. Do you have any tips?
I mean, you could gauge it on like if they say like it's too much money, like how look at how they're saying it. Like if they're kind of nonchalant, a Siggy might work, but if they're like flabbergasted, I would go to like a homie probably next, and then like drop quickly to the next thing if that's not doing it right. Also, you could also close on 3 sets too, like like um, like option close. Like give them an option to pick whichever set. And I also know some of the deal sheets show all 3 sets with prices. And if you use that kind of sheet, how you could explain it is like once you go through them, it's like, if money's not an option, I'd recommend the complete set. But if you want to basically, if it is pushing the envelope, I would go with this set then, and something along those lines. But I would just I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, that's kind of how I would do that. Or like I said, you can gauge it off their response or off of like, if they're like, you know, if you hear them say like, you know, I would never use blah, 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 you know, to drop down, or you know where to drop down to, kind of.
Okay, nice.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Cool. Just got a question.
How do you build rapport quickly? You know, coming from the interactive demos, it's like, I don't know. I usually take like 5 to 10 minutes, and is that like too long on
At
when
the
you're doing
booth?
events? Yeah, at the booth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So what is kind of the standard amount of time for that? And like, what are some questions, or kind of like, I don't know, just principles that you use for that?
Yeah, so basically you kind of just want to build it throughout the pitch. You can do that with like, you know, little jokes. You can do that like when you're cutting the penny. You can do that, like asking, you know, like when I like how I slowed it down, like when I asked like those couple of questions, those kind of things. So a couple examples would be like, you know, right off the bat, you make like some sort of joke like, "Hey, we're cutting deals," or "Hey, sharpest booth in town," you know, anything like that to like start it. And then like throughout, I would maybe ask questions like, um, let's see, you could ask them like what kind of cooking they're doing. You could ask them kind of like what they're looking for, and whatever they're looking for, you can kind of relate it back to things. And you can build rapport through stories as well. So, say that, you know, say I'm, oh, you know, what's your biggest challenge or struggle? That's the question you could ask. And if they're like, oh, da 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 da, and you just happen to have a story about, you know, that thing, you know, Cutco solving whatever that is, you can kind of relate that in there. Um, or, you know, if there's, I'm really into watches. So like if I see what, like I always like I'll be able to know like I know them, right? So like there's plenty of times where I've built rapport like that. So like, oh, I love the I'm like, oh, I love the Submariner, and they're like, oh, where? And like, because like if they have that, you know, if they have like a expensive watch, like they're obviously into it, or they're just rich. But you know, most of the time they're obviously into it, and like they have some sort of passion about it. So like, especially if, you know, if because I can, you know, you know, if I can name like the exact model, or if like it's got a nickname. Like I remember one time the guy had on it's called a root beer, which is just like the way the colors look on the specific Rolex GMT. They nickname it the root beer, right? So, oh, I like the root beer. He's, oh yeah. He's like told me the story about like how he was a pilot for years, and like this was like you know, for him doing like so many years of flying, or that's why he bought it, and then, you know, da 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 da. So it's like it gets them excited. Or if it, you know, they got a Disney shirt on, you want to talk, and you talk about Disney, is that like you know, travel for like the average person, they don't do that often, maybe once, twice a year. So those are some of their favorite memories every year. So that's gonna like bring back that emotion, right? And that's just gonna spark that really quickly, right? So certain things like that. So notice like the little things. If you know how to connect on that, you can do that. Or just, you know, ask easy questions about the event, or, you know, stuff like that. But yeah, you don't spend like 10 minutes before you start the demo, because then they're gonna be like, all right, I'm out of here. So you kind of gotta like throw that in there.
Thanks, Matt. No, that makes a lot of sense. I liked what you said about, you know, like picking up those cues, right? With the watch, like that's very cool, or whatever they're wearing, right? Giving them a little compliment to get started.
Oh yeah,
Thanks. Yeah.
100%. My pleasure. And I've actually done that like a few times with like the watch thing. That also, also in my mind, it tells me like, oh, that's a, I know how much that watch costs. You can definitely afford this one. I'm like, oh, you got, and like it was fun. This one time I was closing a flatware chest. The guy, he told me what else he had in his collection. I'm like, oh, that's like 40 to 50 grand. Okay. Yeah. Oh, you got 3 or 4 of them? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So
Yeah,
kind of
right. That
neat.
way they can't BS you that they're broke, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I wouldn't say that, but just so you know, like at that point, I think you and them both know it's like, oh yeah, you got money, motherfucker. So, oh yeah. Any other objection questions or questions on the pitch in general? Oh, all
Yeah,
right.
yeah, I got a
Oh,
question. Matt, I know the other day at the event, there was one lady who talked to you, the Amanda, who almost bought the ultimate set. She was 99% there. Which one of those objections was she stuck on? The too much
so
not right package or general comfort?
so the problem with that was the package, and the reason I know that is because I'll be honest. I'm sure we've all been there where you know you think you're going to sell a bigger set and you're like you kind of stick on that set too long, right? So what I should have did was I should have just dropped down, sold the Siggy, and got it out of there, but I was trying to stick on the ultimate. Reason why I say that is because she said something about the cleaver at one point, and then she also like um it was something else, like little thing where I was like, all right. So in hindsight, I should have just closed the Siggy instead. I should have dropped down, focused on that. Now I could have, because once you get the first order, you can always go up, but you gotta get the credit card first, right? That's a whole nother talk, upserving. But yeah, I should have just dropped down and sold a Siggy in hindsight. But it is what it is. Shit happens. Won't be the first ultimate that walks. Won't be the last. Or it wasn't the first. Won't be the last. And I'm sure I'll close a lot more in between. So
Okay.
Matt, could you explain a little more on general comfort? Does that just mean like not being a pushy salesman, like them being comfortable with you? Is that what that is, or?
it could, yeah. So it could be in that sense. Um, yeah, it could be like they might not be comfortable with just buying today in general, right? Because like you could do a perfect demo, but if they're like they have $4 in their bank account, what are you gonna, you know what I'm saying? Or some you get those people who are like, oh, I want to buy this, but not at this moment. You know what I'm saying? Like the timing could be off. So general comfort can mean a few things, but yeah. Also, another good resource for y'all, the YouTube playlist I put in the chat last week. One of the videos, and so there's 2 videos on objections. There's one from Net where it's got 3 CSPs, Fonz, Matt Graves, and Jonathan Schmitz doing like objection handling on the stage, and then there's another one where it's like the Texoma team, like rapid fire, doing like basically like all the objections, right? So I would definitely recommend y'all watch both of those. There's a reason why 2 of the videos in that like 8 or 9 or 10, whatever how many video playlists are on objections, because it's super important. So I definitely make sure to watch both of those and kind of get those down. So yeah, any other questions from y'all?
Kind of adding on to what you were talking about like a minute ago, Matt, about kind of like general comfort. I'm sure you've gotten objections before where people are like, yeah, I'd want to do it, but right now is not a good time because I'm buying a house, or right now is not a good time because of I just don't want to buy it, or right now is not a good time because of um, I'm just stressed out with divorce or whatever people are talking about. Like, how do you kind of handle those like not the right time objections?
Yep. So there's two ways you can do, or well, there's two. So I'll ask the question the same, but there's two ways you can take it. So if they say, if they get, so if they're like, now is not a good time, maybe in a month or maybe in like a week or two or whatever it is, right? Then I'll respond with, okay, I just want to make sure I'm hearing you right. So with this set here, you would definitely do it. You can swing it. You'd use everything. Just the only thing that's holding you back is it's not 2 weeks from today. And if they say yes, then that told me that the only objection is it's not 2 weeks from today, which means like everything else, there's no other objection. That's just it's just that little timing thing. And then what I'll do from there is, okay, yeah. So what's great, we can actually write up your order today. You use a paper order form for this. We'd actually write up your order today, and we can just have it process 2 weeks from today when you want it to go out, right? That way you get locked into the specials from the event, and you still get the extra savings plus the, whatever you did for them, right? That way you get all that. And that, and if that
Yeah.
was the only objection, then they'll go for it.
Okay.
If it wasn't, then they'll be like, well, and then they'll say what the real thing actually was.
Yeah.
So that is like a form of a smokescreen.
Yeah. And then yeah, because those objections are frustrating when it's just like, yeah, I don't get paid until Friday, so next week, or those people who don't have that much money in their bank account.
Yeah, if they're like, oh, I don't get paid till next Friday. Okay, no worries. I just want to make sure I'm hearing you right. The only thing stopping you from getting this set is the fact that it's not Friday, that 20 whatever, right? Okay, cool. So what's great is we could actually write up your order today. That way we lock you into the specials, and then it'll just process on Friday when you get paid.
Yeah. Okay. And do you ever get people who, I'm sure you do, get people who are just like, they don't want to say no to you because they're just really nice people, and you ever get people like that, so they just throw up a bunch of smoke screens?
Yeah, that's why you got to be, I guess, direct with your questions. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like you just kind of, if you can smell the BS, call it out. I mean, don't say that. Don't say it's BS. But like, if you can tell that they're if whatever they said to you just sounds wacky, it's like, what? Like I remember like 2 years ago, somebody was like, oh yeah, well it depends on well I'll buy it, but it just depends on how the election goes. It's like, how the election goes? What the fuck does the election have? Sorry, for those watching the recording, what does that have to do with you getting paid on Friday? You know what I'm saying? Like, what does that have to do with it? Just whatever it is like, but you don't say that. It's like, okay, well, and then you want to repeat like, okay, so let me make sure I'm hearing you right. You want to do it, but you just want to know how the election goes first, or whatever it is. It's like, and then sometimes they'll even be like, when you repeat it back to them, you'd be like, well, yeah, well, what it really, or you know what I'm saying? Sometimes they won't, but sometimes they'll be like, well, they'll even be like, okay. So
Oh yeah, and sometimes after you clarify, they're gonna like kind of realize they sounded stupid, so they start explaining themselves sometimes.
sometimes, yeah,
Okay.
just depends on the person.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Oh, and I guess more.
Did any y'all? Sorry, I'm not. Someone's at the door. Did anyone have any last questions?
I'm good for now.
Sweet. Well, I'm gonna stop the recording here.